A few instructions to our students. I see them joining. Please remember that you have already registered through whatever link we had sent. And at the end of the session, we will be posting the feedback link, which will be posted in the chat box. You all have to fill the feedback link. Only then you will be getting your e-certificates. Please keep this in mind. We will post the feedback link at the end. You all need to fill the feedback form and submit it. Only then you will be receiving the e-certificate for both the days.
We'll start, Sindhu. It's 11.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Suchita?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, dear. You can start.
Before we begin the session, this is a small reminder again to the students that the feedback link will be uploaded in the chat box towards the end of the session. Make sure you fill it, and only the students who fill and submit the form will be getting the e-certificates. Okay. I quote, the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character. That is the true goal of education. I unquote. Good morning, everyone present here. Welcome to day one of online education and remote learning seminar. This webinar is organized by the English department of SSMRB College. And I am Suchita Vijay of second year BCom. Shivananda Sharma Memorial RV College is one of the famous institutions that come under the RV group of institutions, popularly known as SSMRV College, which runs UG, PG, and research programs, is affiliated to Bangalore Central University. The college has been accredited by NAC with A grade. The college focuses on holistic development of student by implementing a unique model named 360-degree plus one education for wholeness model. I am super excited and amazed to have you all here. Excited about all the amazing conversation we will be having on this session. I request Nikita Revankar from first year BCom to formally welcome the gathering. Nikita.
Welcome. Yeah. Shall I start? Welcome to the present moment, here, now. The only moment there ever is. A very good morning to one and all present here. Me, Nikita and Revankar of first year BCom feel very much privileged to welcome you all to day one of student online seminar organized by Department of English, Sivananda Sarva Memorial RV College, Bengaluru. Our college has spearheaded a 360-degree education for wholeness model which practically works on a six-dimensional approach: academics, skill development, extracurricular, career development, ethics and self-governance, and psychological well-being. SSMRV College has followed the trend of the current education system and correlated its efforts to match the pace of its moment, and this webinar is one of its kind. Respected Swami Sir, it's an opportune moment to listen to your views on online hearing, and we are all excited to hear from you. I, on behalf of our college, extend you a very warm welcome. We are very fortunate to have you with us today. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Nikita, for that very warm welcoming speech. Our dearest principal, Dr. S. Anil Kumar Sir, is the main reason behind organizing this webinar. I request Kavya to introduce our principal to the gathering.
It is always easy to take decision for others, but it is very difficult to take decision for ourselves. Good morning, one and all present here. I'm Kavya from second year BBA. It is both an honor and a privilege to be able to introduce to our master and guru, Dr. S. Anil Kumar. Dr. S. Anil Kumar sir is the principal of SSMRV College. He has been a popular teacher among faculty and students. He has an academic experience of over 35 years in the field of commerce and management, both at the UG and PG level. Dr. Anil Kumar sir has more than 20 years of research experience. He is a recognized guide for many universities for MPhil and PhD programs. He has produced 5 PhDs, and 31 MPhils from various universities. He has been doing various UGC sponsored projects. Dr. Anil Kumar sir has published articles in leading national and international conferences. Dr. S. Anil Kumar sir has authored 17 books. The reflection of his hard work and commitment has transferred into various awards such as Dr. S. Anil Kumar has been awarded in recognition of dedicated service as a teacher confirmed by His Excellency Dr. Hansaraj Bharadwaj, the then Governor of Karnataka, organized by Rotary Bangalore South and Karnataka Civil Defence Corps. He has been awarded for achieving excellence in education from RSSB. He has received Dr. Abdul Kalam Gold Medal Award from Global Economic Progress Research Association, New Delhi for individual achievement and distinguished service in education and research. He has been an NCC under officer, has won Best Cadet Award. Dr. S. Anil Kumar has also been awarded a D lead by the University of Panama, US. Coming back to his key focus areas within SSMRV, his academic innovations like the 360-degree education of wholesale model with 5 dimensions approach, setting up of 27 activity centers are all stronghold strategies which aims to take the SSMRV college to a greater heights. The direct impact of the same was our college getting an A grade by NAAC for the first time during its third accreditation cycle. It is with pride we are proud to mention that our students got many ranks and gold medals in the Bangalore University examinations. SSMRV College has recently been ranked fourth among top 50 colleges in India for the best value for money in the India Today MRDA survey 2018. The list is endless, but with the due respect to time, let me let me contain my few words about Dr. S. Anil Kumar sir. Sir, now I would request to speak a few words, please, sir. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Uh, Good morning.
Good morning,
And
sir.
yes, um, I'm very happy. Once again, I would like to welcome all the two resource persons of the two-day workshop organized by Department of English, SSMRB College, on the new world of online learning and business communication. These two topics are most relevant in the present context, and of course, business communication is one of the subjects for students. Definitely, it will help go a long way for the students. So, I again take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Shivaling Swami HK, Head Department of Studies and Research in English, Tumkur University. Thank you so much, sir. I will welcome you once again, sir, to the SSB College. We are very really very happy to associate with you for this particular program. And of course, tomorrow we have one more professor, Prakruti Badrinath. She will be addressing on the topic business communication. So I formally welcome her also today, and I appreciate the initiative taken by the Department of English, SSMRB College, the head of the department, Saujanya, and
Thank you so much, sir.
a team of faculty, Professor Sindhuri, Professor Harshita, and Professor David, and of course
Thank you, sir.
the various coordinators, student coordinators. Actually, the entire program is managed today and tomorrow by the students. I just seeing the program list, I think the entire program is managed by students. I think that is very important in the life of the students. So I also welcome all the participants, the students participant. I could see around 150 already, and they may go up further. And I welcome all the participants who have shown interest in this seminar. So once again, I'm very happy to welcome to this seminar organized by SSMRV. I think I just give few words about the SSMRV and the RV institution. SSMRV college is run by a very reputed institution called RV Educational Institution, which runs 20 institutions, including professional colleges like RV Engineering College, Dental College, Physiotherapy, Nursing College, and various degree colleges, NMKRV, and PU colleges, BEd colleges, schools. So it starts from UG to, you can say LKG to PG, you can say. And this is there from, this institution is run by very, you can say, eminent personality, Dr. Pandurang Shetty as a president of this institution, and AVS Murthy as secretary, and Sri T.P. Nagaraj as joint secretary. And recently we have also got the permission to start the university. The RV University is actually functioning from this year, that is from July onwards. So I'm very happy to say that SSMRV is one of the flagship institution in RV institutions. And of course, we have ranked among top 5 colleges in India as per the India Today rankings. So once again, I'm very happy to have you, sir, an eminent speaker like you. Really inspires our students and motivate them and help them in their knowledge acquiring. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Kavya. Thank you, Anil Kumar sir. Joining us today as our resource person is Professor Shivlinga Swami sir. He's an amazing individual and a visionary. He was kind enough to take out time from his busy schedule to be among us. I request Supreet of second year BCom to introduce our speaker to the gathering.
Supreet?
Is he there?
I saw him, he was there. Just a minute, give me a minute. I think he lost his connection or something. We'll wait for a minute. Sorry about that.
Or else, Suchita, if you're okay, you can read it. Sindhu, is that fine?
He's there. Supreet?
Yes, ma'am. One moment. I had a correction.
Okay. You can start.
Yes, ma'am. Just a minute. Good morning, one and all. Sorry for the trouble. I am Supreet from second year BCom B. I'm here to introduce to you all today's resource person, Professor Shivlinga Swami sir. Professor Shivlinga Swami HK is currently the chairman of Department of Studies and Research in English, Tumkur University, Tumkuru. Professor Swami regularly participates in conferences, workshops, and refresher courses as a resource person. Professor Swami's publications range from literature in English to literatures in Kannada. Besides, he has collaborated with Hampi Kannada University for project involving translation studies. Currently, Professor Swami has been contributing articles on current affairs to Kannada dailies like Prajavani, Kannada Prabha, and Praja Pragati. He has produced 4 PhD scholars. The ongoing research work under his guidance has been on caste, religion, nationalism, gender, etc. Dr. Swami has been one of the most revered professors by his students. I quote, I'm not a teacher, but an awakener. by Robert Frost can be rightly attributed to Swami sir. He is one of the few teachers who actually inspire hope, ignites the imagination of students, and instills a love of learning. We are so honored to have you as a resource person for the session today, sir. I am certain that all participants present here are excited to listen to you, sir. Now over to you, sir. Thank you. Please, sir.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Supreet. And thank you, SSMRV College, for having me here. And of course, thank you, Sindhu, for the initiative. I'm going to talk to you about online learning today, and like how the title of my lecture suggests, it's all about online learning. But besides online learning, there will be emphasis on remote learning. So we'll just try to understand the actual significance attached to online learning today, and what responsibilities students have got to shoulder when it comes to online learning, and how it actually differs from conventional learning, which happens in the comfort of your classrooms. To start with, I have a simple anecdote to share with you. If you've heard of a movie starred by Dr. Rajkumar called Kaviratna Kalidasa, there's a very interesting incident in the movie in which a poet called Dindima happens to walk into Lord or King Bhoja's court to throw a challenge at the poets of the court of the King Bhoja. And the challenge here is, if the people or the poets of Bhoja's court fail to solve the puzzle thrown at them by the poet Dindima, then all of them in fact have got to become his slaves. And it's a very intricate puzzle thrown at the people, and it goes like this. Kamale Kamalotpattihi. And it's of course in Sanskrit, and none of us would understand what it actually means unless it is Kalidasa himself who comes to our assistance to solve this particular puzzle. And King Bhoja looks at his people, wondering if anybody can solve the puzzle, because it's the question of his prestige, and he would be very much renowned across the place for giving patronage for the best poets of the land. But none actually has the ability to do anything with this particular puzzle, because it's a kind of a puzzle that puzzles them almost perennially, and nobody has any answer. Ultimately, Dindima gives them a little bit of time. But unfortunately, it is for Bhoja's poets that nobody has any answer for Dindima's puzzle. Ultimately, there's a small silver lining for Bhoja when a prostitute happens to walk into his court with a solution. And he becomes extremely happy, because it's a puzzle that was not solved by even the best poets of his court, and a prostitute of his place happens to know the answer for this particular puzzle, and his image is saved before Dindima. And the poet Dindima walks in on the mentioned day looking for an answer. And when the answer is given to him, he is quite surprised, because the answer has been given by a prostitute, and his response, of course, is very important for us. And the actual purpose of this particular anecdote is to make you understand the response of Dindima to the answer given by a prostitute. He says, "It is impossible for a prostitute like you to solve this particular puzzle, because it takes culture, it takes education, it takes wisdom, it takes knowledge to solve this puzzle. It's not really possible for somebody who has actually lived most of her life by sharing bed with strangers. It's not really possible for a person like you to solve a puzzle created by a Kavi like me. It's impossible." In addition to that, he says, knowledge can be acquired by people who are committed enough to unlock the trunk filled with education with their head. They have to headbutt against the lock to open it so that education could be acquired, knowledge could be acquired. Otherwise, you cannot acquire any knowledge. So what is important for all of us today here is there is immense material available for all of us. No matter whatever course you are doing and how many of the subjects that you have in the given year in which you are in, there is immense material. There's endless material on internet today. But online education, in fact, has thrown open before us a major challenge. How are we going to do our learning when there is absolutely no monitor before us? Because it's going to be 100% independent learning. If you were coming to the colleges and if you had a teacher before you, and if there was regular feedback being given to the teachers about what you have learned, that could definitely give both of you some sense of certainty about your learning. But in remote learning or independent learning, you are accountable only for yourself. As a student, you are 100% accountable only for yourself, and if you take that responsibility to be accountable for yourself, then learning can happen, because learning is all about acquiring knowledge. If we don't happen to take that responsibility and do this independent learning, then we will have to be in a kind of a position of the woman that we actually got to know in that anecdote that I shared with you, who has absolutely no respect in the face of the society. Because respect cannot be achieved or gained or obtained with power or with money. It has got more to do with your personality. It has got more to do with your actual virtue and charisma. And all these things, in fact, can become inculcated within the realm of your personality only when you do your learning with a lot of commitment and with a lot of application of mind. Now that you are in degree, it is very important for all of you to understand that today's world, in fact, has thrown open not just some challenges related to your health. Corona has got nothing to do with our education. It has got only to do with our health. But unfortunately, its actual impact on our education and on our actual life always goes unnoticed, because we tend to apparently think that once we are given the independence to stay at home, it's going to be almost like endless vacation for us. But it's not really vacation time for us. It's really a very important time for all of us to do a lot of introspection about what we have to do now for our future. How are we going to do something to make sure that our future, of course, remains pretty safe? Because today, online education, in fact, is replacing physical spaces like your colleges. And online education, in fact, is becoming available for a young number of students who, in fact, are becoming educated with the kind of courses that you are doing in colleges through conventional education. And traditional education is now becoming hackneyed by the minute, precisely because of so many things that actually are becoming innovated today. And technology has now been the mantra for all of us. And in case there's anybody among us who is technology illiterate, then it's going to be a bleak future for him or her. Because learning today cannot happen only by way of doing one traditional course, because acquiring one degree will only make you call yourself a BCom degree holder. But there could be thousands who actually pass out with such degrees soon after their examinations. But what matters for all of us here is what we learn in the colleges has got to transform itself into some kind of a future for us. There should be a job waiting for us, and job market, in fact, has got to embrace you. if we really think about transitioning ourselves from college life to work life pretty smoothly, it all depends on what kind of foundation that we are going to pay for ourselves in our college lives. I still remember our political science professor who walked into our class on the first day when we were waiting for a teacher, who mentioned that it's going to be easy for us to be pretty happy in the next 3 years because we all were in such stage of our lives. At that particular age, it's pretty easy for us to simply spend our time pretty happily. But if you choose to be happy in the next 3 years, you got to forget your future. But if you expect your future to keep you happy, then the next 3 years do matter a lot, because your learning, in fact, has got to happen to such extent that whatever you learn today has got to remain as a deposit for your future. If you expect your learning to remain as a deposit for your future, then you got to do your learning with a lot of commitment. Because when we actually sit in the classroom before our teachers, whoever is teaching whatever it is, there needs to be a conscience guardian before us, and that conscience guardian is we ourselves. If it is traditional classroom situation, you have a teacher before you who would always be a kind of a guardian for you. But when you're at home, there is absolutely no monitor, and you can even switch off your video and sleep and think that you're actually enjoying your classroom sessions. And you may also think that you fooled your teachers. But unfortunately, the decision that you made today to switch off your video to only relax would definitely have serious repercussions in the future, because what you did today will not end today. It will actually set pace for your tomorrow. So when we are learning from our teachers, there needs to be certain kind of a conscience guardian who has to keep reminding us about one thing. The teacher before us, in fact, has not come into the classroom for fun. The teacher inside the classroom, in fact, has got something to tell us. Maybe the teacher is not extremely interesting or entertaining, but what the conscience has to tell us here is, a teacher is not meant to give us any entertainment. We are not hoping for any entertainment from our teachers. Instead, we want some knowledge which would matter for our future. And any teacher, for that matter, would not walk into your classrooms just to spend time for 1 hour, because spending 60 minutes is not a joke. Nobody can manage to or afford to spend 60 minutes with students without proper preparation made for spending those many minutes in the face of 60 informed students, because I'm very sure I'm addressing informed crowd here, because you all belong to urban setup of this world. Such being the case, when you have a teacher before you, make sure that your conscience is alert and be sure that there is some kind of a learnable in each class that you attend. Because what commitment you have today would actually set a precedent for the same kind of commitment even in your work life as well. Because whatever you are here today in the classroom will remain the same in work life as well. In case you keep giving excuses for your work today, then you are going to continue doing the same thing even in your work life. Because when it comes to doing your learning, it's not simply for scoring some marks, because as students, when we have a conscience guardian before us, the conscience guardian has to tell us something. There's a lot of difference between learning and studying. All this while, almost for decades or centuries, there has been a lot of emphasis on studying, because people, in fact, have always been obsessed with marks. Education has only been a kind of a process for all of us, and your education is considered to be complete soon after a particular year of your course. And then once you get your degree certificate, you are going to get a lot of appreciation if there is some percentage on your degree certificate. But that is not the end of it. Today, there could be millions who would have done BCom or BA or BSc with almost similar percentage, but what will actually lend you a certain amount of distinction to get a job? All of us have a lot of dreams, right? All of us have a lot of dreams, but if you expect the dream to translate itself into reality, then whatever dream we have, in fact, has got to be achieved with corresponding efforts. So when we do any course, make sure that you are not going to do that particular course by giving importance only to doing a lot of studying, because studying, in fact, is focused only on scoring marks. Besides scoring marks, you all have to know that there is some learnable in each paper that you do. Every paper, in the course of 3 years, which has been offered to you by your syllabus makers, would have something to give you for bringing about certain change in your life. Because learning is not simply about making you degree holders. Learning is all about bringing about significant changes in you. Learning is all about bringing about significant attitudinal changes and behavioral changes. What I mean by attitudinal change and behavioral change here is, try to understand this. I'll give you one more anecdote as an example. Last year, when we had this crisis of Corona, lots of politicians, in fact, were trying to give us some sense of solace through their speeches. All of them wanted us to be slightly cool in the face of this menacing problem called Corona, because that would definitely create a lot of chaos in the world if the people become restless. So it is important that the politicians take a little bit of responsibility to come out and say a few things of comfort for all of us. And that was actually done by one of our ministers exactly a year ago. And the kind of speech that he made became not really a solace for the people of Karnataka, but it became a joke for the people of Karnataka, and the video went viral, and people, in fact, were making fun of him. And mind you, he has money which he cannot count in one lifetime. He can definitely buy almost half of Karnataka with the kind of money he has, and his power, of course, is endless. He can definitely influence even the chief minister of Karnataka. Such being the case, the person whoever made the speech suddenly became a laughing stock because of the exposure of his personality through the lack of proper education, and the lack of proper education projected the lack of attitude and the lack of culture. And what I'm trying to hint at here is, he used an English word so wrongly that anybody whoever knew a little bit of elementary English would actually laugh at you. He wanted to advise the people whom he was addressing to do gargling with hot water to ensure that the coronavirus will not settle in your throat. And the word gargling came out as garlic. And he was advising the people to do garlic. And people were nodding. And look at the conversation that would be happening between these two people. There's somebody who is actually a powerful person of your state addressing the poor people. And this guy has used a word in English, and the people around him, in fact, are hoping for some word of comfort. And he has already given them a word of comfort, and they are nodding in agreement, whether they understood or not, but they were all nodding in agreement. And this is the tragedy of today's world, because of lack of education. Lack of education which is holistic. Lack of education which is holistic. Try to get me properly. When we talk about holistic education, it's not simply about acquiring a degree. No. When we talk about holistic education, we have to walk out of our colleges or educational institutions with our head held high because of certain significant change in our personality. We should look very powerful, not because of money. We should look powerful, not really because of our economic background or political background. We need to look powerful because of our individual charisma, and that can happen only when you do your education with a little bit of commitment, or with a lot of commitment rather. You must know that once you walk out of the college, there won't be any kind of sympathy from the people. So long as you are inside the comfort of your college, you have your teachers who would definitely show you a lot of sympathy, because after all, you are their students. But the same kind of sympathy cannot be extended towards you by anybody who's not your teacher or your guardian or patron. The outside world, in fact, would have a lot of expectations about you. And it's up to us to meet those expectations. Try to get me properly here. There is expectation about us in the society outside. And in the meanwhile, unless we meet those expectations, we cannot think about social acceptance. So it's very important for us to be very aware of something called social acceptance. We need to be accepted by the people outside. You cannot force others to accept you. You cannot force anybody to simply accept you because you have a sob story to share with them. Nobody would accept you because you said something pretty sympathetic about your own life history. Those things don't matter. You cannot carry tales about yourself which would create sympathy in others about you. Those things don't matter. Your personality, in fact, has got to be changed only because of your education, and that education has to comprise proper learning, not studying. Your education, I repeat, has to be determined more by proper learning, adequate learning. If you have done such kind of learning, then you can definitely assure yourself of the first stage of your learning, that is certain attitudinal change and certain behavioral change, and also a certain change in your paradigm. Once those things happen, then definitely you can think about doing something outside your colleges. And today's world, I said that there are lots of challenges being thrown open by Corona. What kind of learning are we actually used to doing? Basically, there are different kinds of learning that we are used to doing. Learning that has happened at home. All of us have actually done a lot of learning at home. And learning that we have done at home is something which is purely unconscious learning. We didn't even know that we were learning certain things. And for example, nobody would remember the first day of their language learning at home. And nobody would know who actually taught them certain behavior in the face of the society. Because learning at home happens not really formally like how it happens in your college setup. Learning at homes happens in the form of conditioning. That conditioning, of course, is something that we all are exposed to. And once we come out of our homes and start walking into educational institutions hoping for formal learning, then it's going to be a terrible clash between what we have learned at home and what we are now going to learn from others outside our homes, because there could be certain things which would stand in counter of what you have learned at home. And when you have a lot of things that are countering your learning at home, then it becomes very important for each individual to make conscious decisions about how to sort out what is learnable and what is not learnable. There are hundreds of things that are happening for us. There are hundreds of people who would be giving us almost endless information about this world. And our ears would be open, our eyes would be open for all sorts of information that keep coming towards us. But when it is active learning, which is 100% different from the kind of learning that we did at home, it all depends on the choices that we make, In our active learning, especially at the age that you are in, the temptations of the world are pretty terrible. In case you are able to manage the temptations and do your active learning, nothing like it. If you are very susceptible for temptations, then your learning will become affected and you will have to either depend on luck or some godfather or some influence to determine your future. If you think you want to do something for your future all by yourself using your sense of independence and autonomy, then make sure that your active learning happens very responsibly, because today student accountability is a very important component of learning. What is student accountability? In your traditional classrooms, you used to be accountable for your teachers in the form of submission of assignments, or maybe answering certain questions, or participating in some interaction, or giving some feedback, or even looking for teachers seeking some information in their staff rooms. Many such things would happen because learning basically happens through human interaction. But today's corona situation has thrown open a major challenge where online education has actually dismissed all those possibilities. There's absolutely no scope for your sociability, you know, because holistic education cannot happen without sociability, and you have to somehow do active learning to ensure even holistic growth as well in the absence of sociable or social life. You have to continue with your social life only online. And that is where things become extremely intricate for all of us, because when it is active learning and when it is remote learning, you are accountable for your own self and there's nobody to ask whether you learned something or not. I can give you one more example. A friend of mine who works in some department in our university, who joins me every day in our regular walk, wanted to know how online education was happening for my daughter. I was pretty happy with the schooling that was happening online for my daughter, and I gave him a glowing feedback about the efforts being put in by teachers. And I was also very much ready to simply make the payment of the fees to ensure that the teachers wouldn't actually become harassed. But he had a funny story to share with me, and I found it surprising that he found what he explained to me to be very funny. His son, who was attending online class in the privacy of his room, had actually dozed off by switching off his video. And my friend, who walked into his son's room to give him some refreshment, found this to be extremely funny, and he called his wife to show her what was happening there, and both of them clicked pics and they shared those pics with some groups on WhatsApp, and they all had nice fun with their son's behavior in the face of a classroom. What matters here is the boy who dozed off, in fact, wouldn't know that he had to be responsible for himself, and the parents, if they also don't take responsibility, then your life would definitely be in certain kind of a danger. And that is exactly what I'm trying to bring your attention to. Student accountability actually matters a lot here, because nobody actually is responsible for you. You are responsible for yourself. You are accountable for your own self. In case you don't take that sense of responsibility, then you will have to meet certain consequences which you had never imagined. So when you are doing your education, make sure that you do active learning by differentiating active learning from studying. Your focus should not be only on marks. Your focus should, of course, be on certain extraneous things that could be associated with your degrees. Because people who are doing online education outside would be much better than even those that are actually doing traditional education in the comfort of their classrooms. And there are so many courses being offered by people like Byju's and all, where students in fact would boast of many courses that they would have done online, and their profile would look pretty heavier than yours. And you would be pretty complacent that you've done enough with one degree and You might make a resume that just says that you have done 1 degree, but that will not be sufficient enough because you are supposed to know more. You're supposed to know more, you are supposed to be ready for more, because the challenges today are doing what you actually learn in your classroom online. I repeat, whatever you learned in your classroom has got to be applied to the outside world online using a lot of technology. So knowing the subjects that are offered to you is one thing. On the other hand, becoming proficient in technology is another thing. Because all of us have got to be techno savvy, you know. What matters for all of us is we need to be adaptable. If we don't become adaptable, then things would become pretty difficult for all of us. How do we understand adaptability? There is going to be change every moment. There's going to be change every moment. When I started my career, the UGC had made a rule that whoever was actually getting UGC payment had to teach for 16 hours a week. And this became slightly an unimaginable problem for those who had actually spent close to 2 decades of their work life doing 10 years of teaching. And suddenly there was an increase in their working hours by 6 more hours. If they didn't do that, then they would definitely have to face the music from authorities. But they were very ready to get the fat pay because the scale in fact had become doubled. And because of the intervention of certain bureaucrats who actually wanted the teachers to do almost equal amount of work like the bureaucrats did, because we were all getting the kind of payment that they were getting, suddenly there was a rule made by the UGC for all of us that we had to teach 16 hours a week. Imagine the condition of those people who actually were living very much in the comfort of just 10 hours a week, which they would take or not, we don't know. But somehow, suddenly an increase in the number of working hours was not really a comforting thing for them. And it all called for adaptability. They had to make a lot of changes in their paradigm. They had to make a lot of changes in their paradigm and start doing the work as expected by the UGC, because the paymaster is saying that. And you cannot throw excuses at your paymaster. And anything can happen even to the teachers today who are doing their work in private colleges. There could be n number of challenges thrown open before all of us, you know, and suddenly there could be a kind of a situation that we all have to face where there won't be any physical spaces called colleges. All of us may have to, yes, I have to continue my teaching only online, then I have to be extremely adaptable, knowing every damn thing about technology, because suddenly when somebody says that the platform to be used for online education tomorrow would be Google Meet, I need to know the jargon related to online education, because he is using certain words like platform and Google Meet. And I need to know that Google Meet is an app that I need to download, and platform means the app that's going to be used. So there will be certain jargon which will carry a lot of multiple meanings, a lot of meanings that might make sense or might not make sense. And suddenly what matters to us here is, are we there?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah. So when we cannot do our work by being extremely adaptable, hoping for change every day, then change will definitely change our fate. Try to understand this. There's going to be a lot of change, and there's going to be a lot of newness in our educational policies, and all those things in fact will keep giving us shockers or new information. And it is new information which when you are open for challenges, and it will become a shocker when you're not open for challenges. And in your distance learning or understand this, organization of the material that is available matters for all of us. There's a lot of material available, and I said this in the beginning itself. When you're doing your BCom, you have lots of material available, even in the form of YouTube videos. Extremely interesting videos, extremely interesting material in the written form. All those things, in fact, are available, all right. But a sense of pragmatism matters in students. They need to know how to organize the material that is so excessively available, because in distance learning, in remote learning rather, you are in touch with only yourself. And in this particular rat race, you cannot expect people to be in support of you. And don't actually look for certain kind of sentimental relationship with the outside world. No sentiment will work. No sob story will work. You have to do your work yourself by organizing the material as expected by you, and make sure that any material that is available so excessively will be used pretty sufficiently. Because acquiring material and not being able to use it is another handicap all our students.
Swami sir, you're not audible. Sir?
Might have lost the connection, I guess.
Yeah. Uh, Sir, you're not audible. Participants, just wait for 2 minutes. Sir will join us.
ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ ಜಾಯಿನ್ ನಾವು ಅಂತ ಮತ್ತೆ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. Yeah, are we back?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So maybe you lost one or two sentences. It shouldn't matter for you, because I was talking about taking responsibility for active learning, and I was also talking about how challenges actually become new for us. New challenges are being thrown open before us, and I'll draw your attention to one more very interesting challenge thrown open for all of us by the new education policy, and you may have heard of it. They are talking about multidisciplinarity in all courses. They are talking about multidisciplinarity where a student who aspires to do a course in commerce would be given opportunities to drift away from commerce realm and do maybe one course in arts as well. And in the meanwhile, having done a course in arts in the first year, you will be given an opportunity to also have a little bit of exposure to one subject in science. And this multidisciplinarity, in fact, is endangering the boundaries between our courses. Because earlier, when it was BCom, nobody would ask you about science. When you have done maybe BA, it was understood that you have absolutely no knowledge of higher levels of math. But today, The new education policy, once it becomes completely implemented, will definitely make students look completely helpless if they don't adapt themselves to this new situation pretty quickly by acquiring knowledge about other streams as well, despite doing a course in commerce. Doing a course in commerce is okay. Am I audible?
Sir, you were not audible, but now you're audible, sir.
Yeah.
Sir? Sir, are you there? Raviraj, sir? Okay.
Yeah. Sindhu, am I
Yes,
audible
yes,
now?
yes, sir, you're audible, sir.
Hello?
Sir, you're audible now.
Are we back?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, great. Yeah, so we were talking about the issue of multidisciplinarity. So, as students, be ready for that new education policy component of multidisciplinarity, because you might be definitely asked to know one or two things about other streams as well. And you cannot give excuses to people outside that you had actually done only one course in commerce, and it would be unfair for others to ask you anything about certain courses which had nothing to do with commerce, because new education policy's actual objective
Sir, we are unable to hear you.
ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಗ್ನಲ್ ಇದೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಮಾತಾಡ್ಲಾ?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
you are audible. He is audible. Yes, sir.
Okay. So,
I think we lost the connection there. Saujanya ma'am,
Yes, Sindhu.
are you able to hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
No, sir is not there, no.
No, he
No,
isn't
we
there.
can't hear him, ma'am. He's not there.
Okay, I'll just ask him to join. Sorry for the trouble, participants. Sir will be joining us soon. Sorry for the trouble. He'll be with us. Just a minute. Participants, please don't leave the meeting. Sir will be with us in a minute.
Are we back?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So that there has been so much disturbance. I want to draw your attention to one more thing. I was addressing a few of my colleagues a week back when I spoke on something related to online education. And one of the participants, who happens to be a fellow English teacher, mentioned about certain problems students have in online education. And one is, of course, the data problem or the network problem, both rather. And she wanted me to tell her like what we can probably do with this, because students keep coming up with certain problems related more to do with the lack of connectivity. And also they would not be able to afford this data, because every time if it is online class, they'll have to be ready with at least 1 GB data, because the teachers ask them to enable the video, and if you enable the video, then there will be a lot of consumption of the data. And this question was actually asked because I was talking about giving a classroom experience for teachers, or getting classroom experience for the teachers, because of this online education we all are missing the regular classroom experience. So there will be at least a little bit of classroom experience. If you have your gallery open before you with students looking at you intently, listening to you, that will give you a certain confirmation that you are not really addressing a blank screen. But her question, in fact, had got to do with the students' grievance who actually had mentioned that they would not be able to afford so much data. So we'll try to connect this question to today's session when I'm talking about responsibilities students have to take for their own learning. If you have this kind of an excuse about maybe the lack of connectivity or even the data, who is answerable for that, or who is going to answer you for that? So as students, we cannot think about such excuses, because when we tell people that we are not able to afford data, it's your fate. And if you talk about lack of connectivity, again, it's your fate. Because when it was a connectivity issue here in the talk, the chances are pretty likely that the students would simply assume that it's going to be over. The same luxury is not available in your regular classroom session, because in case there is any kind of interruption, maybe an attendant came into your classroom with maybe a circular to be read out for the students know that it's going to be only a momentary break for them and they would still sit inside the classroom. But when it is online education, and if there is a slight bit of disconnection because of lack of connectivity, then the students are very likely to simply assume that the class is over. It is here that your conscience has got to work for you. It is here that your conscience has to tell you that the class is not over and you're expected to be here in the session for as long as you are required to be. And that is where your sense of commitment would come into focus here. And another component of affordability. How much money would it cost a student to buy data for 1 month to attend online classes? It's not really something which is unimaginable, or it's not going to really cost you a bomb. It will definitely not burn a hole in your pocket if you go for data for 1 whole month and ensure that you enable your video and sit before your teachers to get some classroom experience. And this is where you will definitely have certain kind of emancipation from boredom of the online education, because it's not really easy. It looks apparently to be pretty simple, but online education is not easy. Online education is not really a luxury. It's strenuous. It's a strenuous activity for both the resource person and also the listener, because having to continuously address somebody looking at a screen for about 1 hour or so would definitely be more strenuous than taking 3 hours of your regular class outside. Because you are a visual, and this is exactly what I'm trying to tell you here. When you are doing your work as a teacher, you have certain responsibility, but when it comes to the learners, their responsibility is to make sure that there is some learnable in each class they attend. There's no question of giving excuses of lack of connectivity or even the lack of data. They got to be ready with both and make sure that their education continues, because you cannot afford to have 1 0 year in your lifetime. Instead, you have to make sure that you do more things here in your corona times, and make sure that your profile becomes slightly bulging. It has to have extra information about yourself. And another last thing for today's discussion, again coming back to this NEP, new education policy, there's something called 3-language formula, meaning you have to have enough knowledge about a regional language, national language, and an international language. Of course, there's a lot of debate going on inside India about which language can be treated as national language, but the assumption here is Hindi could be treated as national language because of the people who are in power today, so we cannot counter that. And if new education policy becomes implemented completely in about a year's time or so, that the students are going to be demanded to know 3 languages minimum, and if their profile has to contain that information, then it's another new challenge for all of us. And what I mean by knowing 3 languages here is not just being able to converse in those 3 languages. Knowing 1 or 2 things about English or Kannada or Hindi would not be sufficient. When you claim in your profile that you know 3 languages, it means that you can put to use the knowledge of all the 3 languages in formal situation. I repeat, you should be able to use those languages in formal situations, that is, in writing as well as in speaking. When you are given the stage to address somebody, maybe in Kannada, your Kannada has got to be quite different from the kind of Kannada that you normally use with your friends. When you are given an opportunity to do something maybe in English, then your English has got to sound as sophisticated as possible because you are using English language on the stage. So there's something called official language. There's something called formal use of language. So when you have learned some languages, make sure that you learn those languages for academic purposes. And it's not that you have to limit yourselves only to 3 languages here, because today there's again a debate about which one is international language, because from childhood days we were told that English is an international language, but besides that, knowledge of some European languages matters today. Because in case you put on your profile that you have some knowledge of maybe German, some corporate company would find you to be interesting. So your learning, in fact, has got to be so diversified that besides knowing about commerce, you need to know about other streams. Apart from knowledge, you also have to become skilled. So it's going to come very strenuous for you in the next 3 years or so when you have joined your colleges today or this year, where your learning has to happen for the purpose of acquiring knowledge pretty adequately in the realm of commerce and the other streams. Besides that, language skills. You need to have a lot of soft skills, and you should claim that you know your subject pretty well. In the meanwhile, your language levels are also pretty high. Only then you will become productivity of our learning can be ensured only when we walk out of our colleges to get some good recognition by the job market, and that is called social acceptance. And if we achieve that, maybe your learning would be pretty complete. So I end here and thank you.
Suchita?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, Swami sir. It was such an insightful session. Your much relatable examples and anecdote made it very interesting and engaging with the audience. Before we begin with the Q&A session, this is a reminder to all the students to fill in the feedback form before you leave the meeting. It will be uploaded in the chat box, and only after submitting the feedback form, you'll be receiving your e-certificates. I would like to welcome the questions from the audience. People who wish to ask a question can unmute themselves, or you can leave a question in the chat box.
Suchita, can you read the question?
Yes, ma'am. Sir, there's a question.
Yeah.
Varsha Balaji asks, what can we do to ensure access to all the students, as some of them might be handicapped with devices that will enable them to access online classes and material?
Yeah. We are living in such uncooperative world that there's no handicap as such, no matter whether you're physically handicapped or technologically handicapped. There is no support available for us anyhow. you have to somehow facilitate learning with regard to technology when you know that there is a handicap in you. I repeat, when you have learned that you don't know something, make sure that you learn it. You cannot keep taking your handicaps to your teachers, because the teachers in fact would say that it's not part of their syllabus. And in the meanwhile, students cannot say that they cannot use certain devices today, because it's all about learning. It's all about learning. A simple example here is, if there is certain crisis in the form of a natural calamity, like maybe tsunami, if you are asked to do a little bit of swimming of about maybe some 10 meters to reach a place of safety, if you don't know swimming, you cannot expect somebody else who is also looking for survival to help you. He would say, see you in the next life. You cannot keep carrying excuses, and it's not our responsibility as teachers to facilitate everything for students. If they are handicapped in the use of technology, it's up to them to become pretty equipped with the knowledge of technology in quick time and be ready for classes, because the world today is brutal and cutthroat.
So there's another question. Christina Dilip asks, how about the discrimination in fee structure? It differs from one institution to another. On the contrary to which, the expenses incurred to acquire online education is uniform to all. Therefore, in this perspective, doesn't that make online education a fair deal?
I find the question to be completely incompatible to today's session. Yeah, we can talk about this question only on moral grounds. Discrimination or anything that you call it, but when it is differences in fee structure, whoever has asked you this question, try to understand this. Why is somebody charging you high? Meaning, if you want to produce a movie, and in case you want to have Salman Khan there, do you think you're going to ask him to feature in your movie by saying yes to a very meager offer that you're going to make for him? Do you expect Salman Khan to simply be pretty accommodative in the face of your small budget? He would say that you're talking to Salman Khan, who is a star. And if you want me to feature in your movie, then you got to think about having me in your movie only after enhancing your budget. So colleges will charge you high. Why do you think they have high prices or high fees? There is a reason, right? Nobody would simply charge you a huge fee without a reason. And the parents are not fools enough to simply make the payment of the fees without getting something in return. A university where I was working previously, in fact, was charging maybe 80K, I believe, some 10 years back for a BCom course, but 4 lakh for BBM course. So when I asked a colleague of mine about the mammoth difference between a BCom course and a BBM course in terms of the fee structure, he explained to me why that university was charging so much. They had actually tie-ups with international universities, and they had awesome student exchange programs, faculty exchange programs, and think about the exposure the students would get. So no college would charge you high unless there is a reason. It's not just the question of making money. Anybody would want to make money, all right, but there's something in return, and there is logic in it. Because very recently, I wrote an article in a Kannada daily called Prajavani, by addressing this issue of fee structure. I have supported the fee structure. I might sound to be pretty brutal here, but my logic there in my extension of support for the fee structure here is, if the government expects the private colleges to cut down on fee structures, it's unfair. Instead, the government schools and colleges have to augment their infrastructure to such extent where they start posing challenges to private colleges. Because you have power, you cannot ask private colleges to cut down on their fee structure, because think about the infrastructure and think about your own payment in case you are a student, teacher. Every damn thing has to be generated only through fees. So we cannot address this issue of fee unless we think about it pretty pragmatically.
I hope that answers your question, Christina. Sir, I have a question. So you earlier mentioned that about multidisciplinary education in the new education policy. How do you think this is going to affect the students who excel in only one particular field but fail to branch out to different fields? Do you think?
Yeah, the question of acquiring specialization in one subject is now becoming endangered. You are actually being asked to know everything. For example, in case you are watching IPL cricket, hope most of you at least have a minimum knowledge of cricket. Today, no player can simply say that he can do only bowling. Earlier, it used to be such clear-cut demarcations between players in terms of their specialization. In case you are a bowler and once you come to bat as a tail-ender, there would be absolutely no expectation in the team about his batting skills, and they would be ready for their next session pretty immediately, because the expectation was such that the tail-ender would last there maybe a minute or so. But today the face of cricket has changed so much that even though you are a tail-ender, there could be a demand on you for maybe some 10 or 12 runs, which you have to compulsorily score because you have to contribute with the bat as well. So you cannot say that you're only a bowler, and you cannot say that it is unfair on the part of your management to expect a bowler to score runs. Same thing applies to the batsman as well. They might be asked to send down 1 or 2 overs in case the bowlers are proving to be extremely expensive. Same thing holds good for our students as well. For example, if a teacher who is actually doing some teaching work in some department is asked to go out of the college to do some marketing for the college, her or his communication skills are going to be put to test here, and also her or his attitude will be put to test here. You have to somehow go and prove yourself to be good at marketing as well, even though you have been teaching maybe mathematics for decades, because it's a demand from your college, and it's the question of the survival of both of you. If you do your work without throwing excuses that your specialization is only in one field, then things would work.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Any more questions?
Sir, I have a question to ask. Hello?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. So this is Saujanya from Department of English. So we all know, like, we are teachers, and we know due to COVID, we have to switch to this online platform learning. But I also want to know, as a language teacher, have you coped to this platform? Like, there is so much to talk about, and suddenly we miss the connection. As a language teacher, we have so much to include in the text or the lesson. We just don't stick to the lesson or whatever. So how have you coped with it?
Okay. This happened to me exactly a year ago when I had to deliver an online class. Okay. It was really a discomforting situation for me. But I happened to head the department. And it's the question of your prestige as well to set examples for your subordinates and colleagues. If you tell them that you're not able to do online classes, then that would actually become a story for them to relish outside. When I had to conduct an online session for my students, I took a class from a colleague of mine, seriously. He happens to be my junior, and I went to him, sat with him for about some 10 minutes, and he gave me the required orientation for online classes. And I was also familiar with certain jargon that I had to be familiar with, because if students used certain jargon which would render me helpless, then that would be insulting. So I had to do a little bit of groundwork because, like I said, I had to set examples. And every time it is an online class, then I'll be very conscious about this technology, because anyway, when it comes to the material that you have to deliver, it is always there because you have done it for decades. But when you are doing it through certain mode, which is foreign to you, which is completely alien to you, then your consciousness levels have got to become slightly high. Then you can manage. Yeah, it's a very discomforting thing for me also, but I consciously avoid using it as an excuse.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I have another question. Since we have moved away from the traditional setup of examinations, we see most of the 10th and 12th board exams which have been, the students didn't get a chance to write exam. Do you think the government should resort to a different mode of examination? A different mode to test the students?
So when you are, if you are hinting at online examinations, how do you think we can conduct online examinations? Supposing you are talking about maybe a subject like English for 10 standard students. You have to create 100 questions. And all 100 questions have to be multiple choice questions. But you cannot set just one question paper. You need to create 3 sets of question papers. So 300 different questions with 4 options each. And multiple choice questions do not actually test your skills of interpretation or your language skills. It will only test your luck or your memory. So there is absolutely no alternative as of now which could strike either the government or the teachers to do for our 10th standard students except promoting them simply blindly. But the problem here is, in case all those students who have now come out of their 10th standard looking for admissions for PUC, irrespective of their actual academic merit, they will all be admitted to first PUC. So the students have more challenges now to face. So competition will become intense, and the traditional mode of examination cannot simply get changed into online examination for all of us. Online examinations can work only for some courses or at some levels. So very difficult. And these are intricate circumstances which are 100% unsolvable. We have to only think about Corona to stop persisting, and we have to only think about the revival of the regular circumstances.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any more questions? Okay. Thank you all. Today's session will be available on our college YouTube channel. I request all of you to share it with your friends and family. Now I request Viba from first year to deliver the vote of thanks.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, you are.
yeah.
Thank you. I quote, "No one who achieves success does so without the help of others. The wise and confident acknowledge this help with gratitude." I unquote. Good afternoon to one and all. I am Vibha from first year BCom. It's a matter of pride for me that I have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. First of all, it's an honor to have had the opportunity to listen to you today, Professor Shivalinga Swami sir. On behalf of my college and the entire team here, I offer my heartfelt gratitude to you, sir, for sharing your graceful words with us today in today's session.
Thank
It
you.
was a very interesting session for all of us. I hope we shall witness certain attitudinal and behavioral changes in the way we learn after having listened to you today, sir. Certainly, we all have experienced a lot of challenges while transitioning from the conventional method of teaching to the online method. I thank you, sir, for throwing light on these challenges and for providing us with solutions to adapt. The examples you mentioned made us connect more to your speech as they were very much relatable to us, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I
Okay,
wish,
is it Viba, right?
yes, sir.
Okay. You did a good job by thanking me pretty well, but I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, was that script given to you by a teacher or you prepared it yourself?
Uh, I added a few points, sir, while I listened to your speech. I added a few points on the way while I listened to your speech.
If you really did that yourself, then I'm really happy because students today, in fact, did such a wonderful job that I was actually observing each one of them. You all actually did extremely well. And if you didn't ask your teachers for a script for this vote of thanks, then the teachers are pretty lucky to have all of you. And wonderful it is.
No, sir, they have done it by themselves.
Wonderful.
We are lucky, sir.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, sir. I wish to extend my sincere gratitude to our honorable and respected principal, Dr. S. Anil Kumar, sir. I thank you for all the encouragement and support you have been showing us towards the Department of English in their activities and for being with us here today, sir. Thank you. This session wouldn't have been a success without the guidance from the head of Department English, Mrs. Saujanya Devan, ma'am. I sincerely thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Baba.
My heartfelt thanks to the organizing committee, Sindhu Shri ma'am, for coordinating smoothly with us and all the students who were with her constantly. Thank you all. My gratitude to the faculties of the English department, David sir and Harshita ma'am, and the faculties from other departments. I sincerely thank the head of various other departments. Thank you all. My hearty thanks to Satish sir and Shivkumar sir from the Department of Commerce for their unending support. My thanks to the technical team, Raviraj sir and Reddy sir. This session would not have happened without the help and support of Gokul sir from the Department of BCom. My sincere thanks to you, sir. I am thankful to all the participants for being here and attending this session. This event wouldn't have been a successful one if you all hadn't spared your time in joining the session today. We look forward to having the same active participation on the day 2 of this webinar as well. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Swami sir, for being here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vibha. This brings us to the end of our session. Thank you all for your participation and making it a successful session. I hope to see the same level of enthusiasm tomorrow. Have a lovely day. And make sure to fill the feedback form.
Sindhu ma'am isn't here?
Yeah, so thank you, Swami sir. And participants, kindly fill the feedback form. It has been posted. We'll keep it open for 2 minutes. You can just fill it. Only then you will be getting the e-certificates. Kindly note it. Thank you, Saujanya ma'am.
Thank you, Sindhu.
Thank you, Harshita and David. Thanks for being with us. And thanks to all my dear students who made it possible today. And thanks to the organizing committee. You people really did well. And thanks to Gokul sir and Raviraj sir. We'll keep this open feedback link. If you are done filling the feedback form, you can just leave the meeting. Kindly fill the feedback form and then leave the meeting.